All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of ATD Talks Talent. Today, we're going to be talking about Agile management and the ACCEL model. My name is Avra Bossov, Manager for Brand Engagement and Strategic Communications here at ATD. Been here for just over 3 years. And I'm here with Ryan Changcoco. Ryan, can you tell us about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Changcoco. I'm the Senior Content Manager for ATD's Management Development area, Leadership Development, also the Program Lead for our Government Workforce area, as well as our program with Yale School of Management.
Amazing. Thank you. So obviously management is a very important topic for anyone who works in talent development, HR, really any organization. Like management is that important. So how much impact do you think managers have in an organization and how so?
Yeah, none whatsoever.
That's sarcasm, folks.
and this session just ended. No, I'm probably preaching to the virtual choir here. Gallup study after Gallup study, HBR study after HBR study, even ATD study after ATD studies indicates that management is a very impactful piece to the organization's bottom line for a variety of reasons. In terms of employee engagement and retention, liking your manager or being engaged with your manager is often a top reason as to why people stay or leave. If you look at the last 3 to 5 years of Gallup reports on engagement, the reason people leave, at least within one of the top 3 reasons, is because of their manager. It's not benefits. It's not compensation. It's not, alignment with the mission, vision, or values of your organization. It's, I don't like my manager. I have to deal with my manager every day. And so, I'd rather be with a manager that I can be on the same wavelength on or can communicate with effectively. Now, the effect of the bottom line, obviously, is loss of productivity, the cost of having to recruit someone and then train someone. And oftentimes that's a third, 25% to a third of someone's salary. So that adds up to a lot of money every year.
So basically what you're saying is organizations can, right, like investing in management is a tool for organizations to actually save money.
Yeah, if you really did the math, and a lot of, the organizations out there who pride themselves in developing their managers have done the math and said, if I invest, just throwing, a percentage out there, 5 to 10% of my manager's salary on developing my manager to become more effective in terms of connecting, in terms of developing their direct reports, that actually saves you money in the long run.
Right.
Because of the retention issues or attrition issues that you wind up having of people leaving because they say, wow, my manager really sucks, I'm gonna leave. Now you're in a lurch and your productivity is low. So the people who have figured it out realize that it's a numbers game. It's math. Like, you invest in the people, that manager stays, their direct report stays, you save money, you're more productive, everyone's happy in the long run. So, I'm a proponent of someone who, who thinks that the manager is at the center of the organization, because they're literally right in the middle. They're managing people or developing people, but they're also having to answer to some of the senior leaders in the organization. So like they play this really crucial role within organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly look at management as more of those like soft skills, human skills, as Seth Godin likes to say, rather than the business case. But you're absolutely right. There's for sure a business case. Like, better management leads to better employee engagement, which leads to better business results. And our research has shown that, and a lot of other research has shown that. So shifting into that more personal aspect of management, like in your experience, what makes a good manager?
Oh, how much time do we have? 20 minutes, 30 minutes? We should have planned like a series of 30 of these. So kind of just going off of what you just said, the terminology soft skills, there's people who really like that term. Some people are like, these aren't soft skills, these are hard skills that need to be learned. There's nothing soft about these skills, depending on who you ask. My favorite term, you just said it now, Seth Godin says it. I first heard it from previous business mentor, Elad Levinson, who kind of was a master of mindfulness in the business space, and he called it human skills as well. He's like, these are the skills that help you and I connect, that, it's like skills around communication or being on the same wavelength, as I mentioned earlier. At the end of the day, the job of being a manager is a transactional one, but it's very much a human one. It's like, there are things that have to exist in order for you to be an effective manager. You need to communicate effectively. You need to understand how to regulate emotions within conversations. You need to know how to be transparent. You need to know when to talk, when not to talk. You need to know how to pick up on social cues in order for things to work out.
That emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, certainly. And then there are all the other tactical skills that come with it. Yes, you need to be a good project manager. You need to know the financials. You need to know how to manage timesheets and projects and hold people accountable. Finding the right balance between the more harder tactical management skills and those human skills, I think, is what makes a really good manager. And I'll tell you what, that balance is different on a given day. So you need to figure out when you need to be a little bit more of a human manager versus a tactical manager, and then when you need to dial that back based off of your needs for your organization or your team or your direct reports.
Yeah, and we'll get into this in a little bit because I do want to talk about the ACCEL model. But just that aspect of like right now in this season, right? If we look at 2020 and everything that's been going on, like you need managers who are tactical and you need managers who are human, right? Like it is critical for managers to do both, as hard as it is, right? Like that's because you need empathy right now. People are going through a lot of really hard things, and organizations are too. And so in order to help organizations survive, you need, like, managers need to be both. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a tough time. I chat with a lot of my colleagues who are people managers and folks outside of ATD, and I run the management content area. So I'm talking to practitioners and consultants and thought leaders about this every day. And we're at a time where managers are having more hard conversations in this pandemic season in the last 4 to 5 months than they ever have. I mean, we're talking about conversations around flexibility in schedules and layoffs and stress and burnout and wellness and being asked to be more productive than ever because the organization needs it. Like, it's a perfect storm of all of the hard conversations that managers need to have. And for someone, I'll just share on a personal note, like I'm a people manager. Fortunately for me, I've some really great direct reports who also manage up, but I'm surrounded by probably 50 or 60 books in my office about management. I talk about this 4 hours a day, and there are still conversations or interactions where I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. Like, I don't know. If someone says I'm the best manager, I know how to handle every single situation, they're lying to you. Like, there's no one out there who is prepared for every single situation that managers have to deal with.
Right. And I would say, along with empathy, like that vulnerability as a manager of being like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but we're going to do it. We're going to figure it out.
We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very
so, shifting gears just a little bit, very much related, obviously. But can you share a little bit about what the ACCEL model is?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I came into the organization about 5 years ago, the what we called the management community of practice at the time was really starting to take hold, and there was a lot of interest from our member organizations who said, we find that managers are developers of talent as well, which aligned with obviously our shift from ASTD to ATD.
Sure.
Because talent development isn't just a function within the training area in an organization or the instructional design area, but talent development is everywhere.
Right.
And who is more kind of on the front lines of developing talent than the managers? So part of that shift was we really wanted to define what it means to be an effective manager in the sense of being an effective talent development professional. So, we turned to the audience that we trust the most, which is our members. And we said, what are the skills that you guys value among your most effective managers?
Mm-hmm.
And so, we gave them a bunch of buzzwords and keywords with definitions and said, which one of these say top 5 resume. And fortunately for us, it gave us a really great acronym. So it's the five areas of Excel are accountability, collaboration, communication, engagement, and then listening and assessing. And no surprise here, but these are these human skills. It's not project management, it's not time management, it's not anything super tactical related, but it's really, these are really focused on developing these direct reports. And I'm happy to take a deeper dive into kind of each one of these areas if you'd like as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've definitely talked about the engagement piece and the communication piece, right? And just how important that is. But if you want to, go into a little bit and even like what we found in the research, we're developing the model too.
Yeah, so so these were the top 5 and kind of top 3, just to kind of level set. Again, no surprise, communication. And this, when we talk about communication, it's we define it as setting expectations, transparency, and having hard conversations. Like having hard conversations is a big part of being a people manager. Accountability came in number second. The second one, number 2. So accountability is a little bit of a tricky word because there is a lot of definitions for what accountability means. And some folks say it's making sure someone gets the job done by any means necessary. There's a lot of like very structured and a little bit more stringent definitions of accountability. But for us, it's, we implement concepts like influencing, inspiring, and motivating people to get the job done in the way that it needs to get done, in the way that they're most comfortable and safe. So kind of taking a deeper dive into accountability, we actually have built a framework around this called FACES, which another previous mentor, some of you know, Tim Ito, who was a previous senior director here at ATD, developed along with me and some other thought leaders. So we talked about focus, we talked about achievability, challenges, we talked about, engagement, and then safety. So the psychological safety. So being able to give people a focus, like a lot of us are very scattered and we're like, oh yeah, we're able to do a lot of things at once. It's not really true, and it's a detriment to your direct report if you're asking them to do a lot of different things and not focusing on one. Achievable challenges, it's like, the example is, if your direct report is responsible for a bottom line, you're like, you need to make $5 million tomorrow, but you don't give them kind of the next step to getting to $50,000, $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, and just saying you need to make $5 million, it makes that task daunting. Like,
right.
Like how, and if they've never done that before or gotten there, how do you expect them to make $5 million overnight without giving them some of those achievable challenges?
Right. About setting them up for success.
Exactly.
And that's at the end of the day, right? Like, so that's a model within a model.
it's a model within a model.
Right.
And the reason for that is, there are a lot of accountability models out there. This is just kind of one we came up with, but I think because accountability is defined so broadly, you have to come up with a model that works for you. And we've seen that people kind of like faces because, you kind of see the faces of your direct reports, but also there's some tactical things under accountability that you can implement. The one I really want to highlight here is the safety piece, the psychological safety piece. I know it's a buzzword that's been thrown around for the last 3 years, but gosh, is it so important when you really understand the intention of it. Right. It's being able to have these honest conversations about what's working, what's not. As a manager, you're not going to get better unless your direct report tells you, hey man, you're really screwing up, or I need you to do this. I need you here. I need you off my back, or I need more of your engagement. Like, you're really never going to know unless they tell you. And they're not going to tell you if you don't create that environment where they can tell you. So
psychological safety is creating that environment where feedback is free flowing always.
Yes.
And people feel comfortable, right? Like addressing those wins and addressing those challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. It's addressing the wins, addressing the challenges, being able to step back and take the feedback, encouraging it. But the other thing is, and we hear this from, Simon Sinek and Seth Godin, Travis Bradbury, a bunch of different people, like giving them the space to try and fail,
Yes.
learn from it, fail
Yes.
fast, fail forward. I mean, a big proponent in that, obviously to a degree. But that is a part of the safety as well. It's like if you have the ability to let your direct fly and try things and be creative if they want to, like, gosh, sky's the limit, literally. Like
Yeah.
you're unleashing potential here. Like that's, I think one thing managers forget is that, like, there's so much potential that you're working with that you can let people try different things. It's one of the most gratifying things about being a people manager, quite honestly.
Right. Like when you see the progression, right? That transformation from where someone started,
Yeah.
and then as they are able to try and fail and finesse and work, and then you finally get those wins. I mean, that's amazing, right? Like that's the crux of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. A Yale professor I work with, Dalian Kane, he's a professor of business ethics. He said, your job as a manager isn't to give them step-by-step directions. It's to give guardrails.
Mm. Like those bowling bumpers.
Like those bowling bumpers, like let them. But at the end, they got to knock those pins down, right? And it's up to you to define how wide or narrow those guardrails are. But they have to exist, obviously. Like if there were no guardrails, like you're gonna hit that TV above your head, whatever. Like, so define those guardrails to where you and your direct report are comfortable. Again, you asked me earlier, what makes a good manager? It's finding that balance of defining these guardrails, and that's part tactical, part human. Like,
right.
It's one of the last thing I'll mention on this. Another colleague of mine mentioned this is the hardest job you're ever gonna love.
Yes. Yes.
So it's it's you plan as much as you can for all these conversations, but sometimes you just have to go with it.
Yeah. Awesome. So we touched on this, but I definitely want to, just because management is so crucial right now, this is a two-part question. So what advice do you have for people managers who are navigating their teams and employees through this moment? And the part two of that is like, what considerations need to be made for managing virtually or in a hybrid model?
Yeah, this is a question that comes up to me often, and this is a question that I actually ask my content contributors, subject matter experts, and just fellow managers often as well. My advice for managers kind of managing this new environment is to exercise as much flexibility and understanding as possible, and to be patient. And it's, like we always say, walk in another person's shoes before you judge them. And now more than ever, I think we need that. Just yesterday alone, I think, in the county I live in, school started and many parents are working virtually, like including some of my colleagues are being mom, employee, or dad, employee, and teacher, one kid or multiple kids. And it's like, I can't even imagine how you go about doing that. And you just have to be as empathetic as possible, knowing that that person, your direct report, has the best intention at heart to not just educate their children, but to be a good employee. Like, figure out what the intention is. Always start there. I guarantee you, for the most part, everyone wants to do a good job. They want to do well for their direct or for their managers or for their leaders and for their organization. The intention, I would say, and maybe I'm just an optimist, for the most part, is always good. So start with that. And then, building that flexibility and kind of just taking a step back and being a little bit more patient with people will help build the relationship between you and your direct reports. Like, this is, not only are you being a good human being, but you're also you're building trust. with your direct reports here.
It is fascinating to me that it took this long to get to that word trust.
Yes.
Not for either of our faults, but it's one of those things that I think from all of these concepts that we've talked about, like that's what builds as a result, right? So by holding yourself accountable and your employees accountable, by communicating with them, by listening and assessing and figuring all of that out, like that's what builds the trust. And if you trust your direct reports, then they'll get the work done. Then, it's up to them to figure it out within those guardrails that you set.
Yeah.
And that's really the best part of management, right? Like is building that trust.
Yeah, it's how do I put this? Trust is a tricky word for management development and leadership, and it's thrown out there a lot, right? And I think it's because trust, similar to words like accountability and is a soft skill word, and so people are like, you just have to build trust. You just have to build trust in order.
Yeah, just go out and do it. Just
dude, what does that mean?
Grab a hammer and some nails and build that trust. Right.
How do I do that? How do I do that exactly?
Right.
But there are tactical ways to do it. And, when we put the ACCEL model together, we made it a little bit more high level in some instances because you can't be super prescriptive about management, but we also provided tactics on how to build this, hence the model within a model, right? So trust, for example, in our program at Yale, we use it's a psychological term called the Johari window. It's a tool which is basically 4 quadrants, and it's we ask, where are you within these quadrants in terms of building trust with your direct report? Like, are there a lot of things in the known box which you know about yourself, your direct report knows about you? Are there a lot of things in the unknown quadrant which your direct report doesn't know about you, but you know about yourself? And then there's 2 other quadrants of unknown, and known, unknown. But basically what we're trying to get to, without getting too deep into this, is building more of the known between you and your direct report. As in, yes, you want there to be this camaraderie and trust building by opening up a little bit more about those vulnerabilities, as you talked about earlier, both ways. And that building that human connection actually allows for more productivity down the road, and and kind of getting you all on the same page. I don't know how many people need to hear this, but you need that human connection to be an effective manager. You kind of need all this stuff. Otherwise, right. I'm not saying you need to be I'm not saying you need to be this person's psychiatrist or vice versa. Like, you don't need to hang out every day or after work. Like, you're not trying to be best friends, but there needs to be some sort of relationship aspect here. Yeah. That's comfortable on both sides.
So that's interesting. So how do you do that in a virtual environment? Or a hybrid model, right? Where some of your team members may be in the office if your office is still open, and some people are still working from home because a variety of reasons, right? There's a lot of reasons right now that, organizations are in these dispersed or hybrid models right now.
Yeah, so I start with this when we talk about technology and using Teams and Zoom and WebEx and GoToMeeting and or FaceTime, whatever. Okay, first, you can't replace bad management with technology. You can't replace bad process with technology. So, one of the first questions that some people asked me at the beginning of this thing was, oh, okay, I'm gonna do weekly check-ins with my direct report. Which tool should I use? And my question was, have you ever done daily check-ins with your direct report before the pandemic?
Right.
No. I'm like, how are you going to introduce this to them? I'm just going to put it on the calendar. Oh, man. Might work, but might also not work. Right. If you were someone who checked in with your direct report, not necessarily in the morning, but during lunch when you were in the office together, okay, because you built that process, you built that rapport of there is some sort of daily check-in with Avra, with Ryan, with with, Jim, Stacy, whatever. Like, but if you didn't have a process to begin with, you don't want to like lay a technology on top of it, thinking that the technology is going to replace that process. Okay, so I say all this to say, fortunately for us, we have things like Zoom, like you and I are on right now, where we can see each other's faces and we can see each other's, facial gestures or kind of attitudes.
Right.
And watch each other's like lips moving and eyes moving and like all this stuff. That's super helpful. My suggestion always is like go with a video call instead of a telephone call. Like I think now 6 months into the pandemic, many of us know this, but it makes a difference. The reason I say this is as a manager, you are actually co-regulating emotions with people. Like, are you trying to hype them up, get them ready for this next project you need to tackle? Like, do you need to get them there? Like, do you need to maybe sit back and help them become more contemplative because you need them to be a little bit more creative? Like, it's harder to do that on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, in a video call,
Right.
you could say, all right, what can I do to help you? Like, do we need to think this through? All right, let's take a breath. Let me ask you some questions to maybe get there. You can't really do that on the phone. You can't do that via text. You can't do that via email. So there's quite a bit you can leverage in terms of human connection wise with video calls. So leverage that, build a good process. And if it's a new process, say, hey, I want to try something new.
Give some context for it.
Yeah.
Don't just like drop something on someone's calendar. Yeah.
You're like, I know it's a tough time. I just want to make sure I'm there to support you. I'm there to get you to where you need to be. And then, transparency, we've been talking about this. If there are new things you want to try, or if you're having challenges, be as transparent as possible and ask them to do the same. They have challenges being a parent, like, no shock. We're bringing work home. There's no longer the divide between work and personal life.
Right.
Like, I'm in your living room right now.
Quite literally, yes. And if you have heard my very new dog barking, you have heard that too. Right.
Yes. So for some of my other colleagues, it's like, not only am I in their living room, I'm now in their living room with their kid or their dog or multiple kids. And it's like, this is what we have to roll with, and that's okay. Like, we'll still get the job done. Yes,
which I think for those organizations that, still are in business and still trying to make this work and all of that, like, that's what we have. We have our people, right? And helping and supporting them continue to achieve is what's going to get a lot of organizations through this.
Yeah.
This has been, you and I could talk about this for literally hours. But just a last question on management things. So if people do want more management resources, where can they go from ATD, outside of ATD, generally just want to get the resources out to people?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been building up the management content area for the last 5 years, and I'm fortunate enough to have to be the program director for this program that we're doing with the Yale School of Management's Executive Education Center in New Haven. We do this program twice a year. It is based on the ACCEL model. Obviously this year it's virtual, actually starts next week. But next year, hopefully, we can do this in person. We typically do it twice a year. It's a week, taught by all Yale professors. The cohorts are 30 to 40 people, and it's a wonderful program. And I've been through this thing 5 times now as the program lead. I'm always learning something new about my management and leadership style.
Yeah.
That comes from the community that's there, the conversations that are had. I'm like, wow, I didn't know I was doing that, or that's definitely something I want to try. We toss around the term transformational. It's a transformational program. Like, I think I've heard that term several times by attendees, so that's there. We're active on Twitter, ATD Management. So we're always posting latest insights, blogs, articles, webinars. Obviously, check out td.org/management for our topic page. We're releasing something just about every week. And then for anyone interested in learning more about the ACCEL research, the ACCEL model, you can go to td.org/ACCEL-model. I believe you can download the white paper as well as kind of see the results of the research if you're really into that stuff. I'm a management nerd, as you can tell. Outside of ATD, emotional intelligence is a big part. The L in ACCEL, listening and assessing, really focuses on the soft skills, particularly emotional intelligence, self-awareness, social awareness. So a big fan of Dr. Mark Brackett's work. He's the founding director for the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. A lot of information around the importance of emotions, emotional regulation as a manager. Like, you don't always want to be a cheerleader for your direct reports if you don't want to like hype them up for something, right? Like, you have to regulate emotions with intentions. This isn't manipulating emotions. This is like knowing that you have influence over your direct's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't know that, hopefully now you do. Like, if you come in upset or like a curmudgeon, guess what? Their like emotional value depletes immediately because you have that impact. Right. So understanding that's really important. And then lastly, gosh, I wish I was better at this before the pandemic, but we all really got to take care of ourselves, like mentally, emotionally, and as managers, for ourselves and our direct reports, like understanding the impact of wellness and well-being and just taking a step back from work and all that stuff. So Dacher Keltner, professor out of UC Berkeley, has the Greater Good Center. So if you just look up UC Berkeley, Greater Good, a lot of free resources on well-being, impact, breathing exercises, mindfulness. I know people are like, oh, this is really important. It's like, trust me, like 5 minutes of just stepping back, going for a walk, taking some deep breaths, energizes you, gets you back on focus and on track. Like,
right.
What's 5 minutes going to do? Actually, it can do a lot if you use it intentionally in the right way.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then I just want to make some plugs for other outside of ATD resources.
Yes.
Brene Brown.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
Yeah, who talks all the time. And Mark Brackett was actually on one of her earlier episodes.
That's right.
So definitely make sure to check that one out if you haven't already.
That's one of the best ones this year is called Unlocking Emotions, I believe, and had like 12 million downloads or something.
We'll post the links to all of the resources that we just talked about after we're done being live. And then Angela Duckworth and her book about grit, because I think we all need to be really gritty right now in terms of, having that kind of resilience and being strong despite all of the things that are being thrown at us.
Thanks for mentioning that. I had the opportunity to meet Angela Duckworth on the panel a couple of weeks ago with Mark, actually. And, lots of questions around grit and what it means to be gritty. And one of the things that I took away from that is grit doesn't always mean, kind of clenching your teeth and digging your heels in and just, taking the beach by storm or whatever. It also means sometimes just having the resilience to be there and to get through it and just getting through it, whatever way you need. And sometimes that requires a ton of energy of just pummeling through. And sometimes it's just being present, right? So like grit has a scale.
Sure.
Which is a big learning opportunity. So you can use that word a bunch of different ways.
Excellent. Okay, so these next three questions are ones that we ask everyone of our guests on ATD Talk Talent. So the first one is, what is a skill or experience not listed on your LinkedIn profile?
So between you, me, and the YouTube universe. So one of my first jobs ever at I think the legal age of working in Michigan, where I'm from, 14 and a half. I worked at a florist.
Amazing.
And It was called, and I don't know if it's there anymore. It's called A Thrifty Florist in Huntington Woods, and I was a certified floral assistant. So I make a mean wedding bouquet. So Monte Cassinos, Eskimo roses. Like I'd done one for my sister when she got married years ago, and then helped out with some other weddings in the past. But yeah, so I got really good at that. Obviously didn't see a future in it, but it was a really fun skill to have growing up, and a fun party trick whenever it presents itself. So
Indeed. Awesome. Okay, the next question is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Circling back to Elad Levinson, this quote always sticks out in my head. It's first the heart and then the work. As a people manager, as a leader in an organization, like, you really have to understand the intrinsic part before you can like get people to where they need to get to. So first the heart, then the work. And then as I was thinking about it this morning, my drive into the office, I was just reminiscing on conversations I've had with my parents, and whenever I've had to like work from home at their house, before I get started, they're like, you got to eat something first. Like first the food and then the work. So sometimes the way to the heart is a meal.
That's true.
So an homage to my parents, who will ask you even after you've eaten something, like, are you still hungry? Or you can't work on an empty stomach. First food, then work. Must be a Filipino thing or my parents' thing, or both, but
love it. That's great advice. Definitely great advice. I would say the same for coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
First coffee, then work.
First coffee, then work.
Yes.
First something and then work.
Yes. And then our last question that we're asking everyone is, what is something you're looking forward to over the next month or so?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to fall. I don't know if it's just me. I think there's something super serene about the fall, leaves falling, and going for hikes outdoors during the fall, kind of a nice breeze. I'm a big hiker, done now 20 trails this year, which is more than I've ever done in a year. But I'm looking forward to that, warm drinks and good sweaters and good company. I'm also looking forward to, at the end of the year, kind of looking back and reflecting. And it's like, us as an organization, Avra, you know this better than anyone, like ATD's gone through a lot this year. Just like anyone, we're pivoting to technology-based offerings and getting more creative. And gosh, this session alone, like,
we would not have been doing this a year
ago. We would
ago.
not be doing this right now.
Yeah,
right?
but I'm so glad we are, right? And
Yeah.
I think, just to piggyback on that, like, there's so much opportunity at this moment for, let's do something different, right? Like, let's try something different. One, because we have to. Two, because we get to.
Yeah, that is the better part, right? It's like we get to, and it's almost like we opened up this part of our brain where we're like, holy crap, we could have been creative this whole time. But when you're in a position of challenge, then opportunity comes and innovation comes, and it's like,
right.
We can actually do this because we are fortunate enough to have jobs where we can try things.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to getting through our conferences and our different programs, and at the end of the year being like, not only did we survive, it's like we thrived in certain instances.
Yes.
And we're like,
yeah,
we're pretty freaking awesome. Like, okay, now what?
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that, in addition to awesome fall weather. So
excellent. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day at ATD Government Workforce Online. And good luck with the Yale Management Excellence Program coming up this month too. Everyone can join us for our next episode of ATD Talks Talent on September 23rd. We are going to be talking about community, connection, and networking. Thank you all so much for your hard work in talent development and beyond. And just want to give a shout out to happy ATD Member Appreciation Month.
That's right.
We are so grateful to have all of our members doing this kind of hard work and really showing what talent development can do at this time. So thank you so much, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Talk
Thank
to you
you, friend.
soon. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Talk to you.
Okay, bye.